achieved.
Quite honestly, I'm not sure where I sit on this. There seems to be this growing trend where UFC fighters call out, and it goes the other way as well. We get these unorthodox call outs. We're hearing Tyson Fury's name tossed around a lot by UFC heavyweights. Obviously, that's about making a big payday, whether they fight him in mixed martial arts or in the boxing ring, which, again, other than McGregor, Mayweather, and a couple other smaller examples, we rarely see that actually transpire. You have the Conor McGregor situation where he's constantly on the tip of a lot of people's tongues getting called out. That's kind of died down a little bit. Another recent one was Nick Diaz talking with Ariel Helwani and referring to the fact that, or at least referencing the possibility that he'd be interested in fighting for the BMF title against Jorge Masvidal, kind of to avenge his brother, which actually that's a fight I would want to see. It was supposed to happen at one point in time. It makes a little bit of sense. But again, call me crazy. I'm one of these guys who likes to see fighters fight consistently, 2-3 times a year in a linear progression. You win, you move up, you get closer to contention. You lose, you take a step back, or you take a step sideways. You continue your trajectory. Either way, that's the part of mixed martial arts I like. At the same time, I'm not saying I wouldn't watch. I'm not saying I wouldn't enjoy, but it's a secondary aspect of it for me is to hear these big call-outs of fighters who are just sitting on the sidelines waiting for something to happen, waiting for something to drop into their lap. We'll see. Again, this card we're looking at is two guys, Jan Blachowicz and Jacare Souza, who have been incredibly active, both guys pushing to get a title shot and not coming close, and other fighters are earning those opportunities, and just, again, it's a business. So other guys apparently are more attractive or more move the needle more, if you will, and as a result, they get the spotlight. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and in this episode of the show, we are breaking in the upcoming UFC Fight Night 164, which will transpire on November 16th in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'll be giving you my 5 main card predictions on this episode of the show. All of my preliminary picks, as per usual, will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. Now, this is the last show for a couple of weeks, and it ends a massive stretch. I can't think off the top of my head how many fights in a row we've had. But it has been a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see, 11, 12. It's 11 consecutive fights. The last time we had a break was in mid-August. That seems like forever ago. It's a lot of fun, but again, I like time off because it lets me build that anticipation up to the next card. Lets me look into a few things and get excited again for that next card because of the layoff. It's going to be awesome. I am coming off a fairly decent show. I went, where did I go over here? My record was 9-4 in the Russia event, UFC Fight Night 163. Both bet packs had profits. My CBC profited 64 units. My HBC profited 58.6 units. So we'll get nice big, returns. We'll look to keep that rolling. We had a bit of a stretch there where we were, losing, not doing overly awesome. So with that, we get back on par. We get back rolling. So again, bet packs are $15. You can purchase them in the bet shop. You can also subscribe and save yourself a little bit of cash. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is KO_predictions. You can follow me on Facebook as well. And if you'd like, you can also subscribe to me on YouTube by clicking the subscribe button. Click the bell so you get a notification every time I post a video. And if you want to throw me a like, I also appreciate that. I'm always looking to get that 100 likes mark. It seems to be a plateau I just fall short of. That would be fantastic. A lot of positive comments, a lot of new followers, so I really enjoyed that. Again, if you don't like my format, you don't like the speed at which I talk, you don't enjoy my show, power to you. Go find somebody else. That's fantastic. But again, for those of you who have all the positive comments and things, I greatly appreciate it. On that note, we've got 5 fantastic fights to break down. Let's get to that first main card prediction. Fight number 1 of the main card transpires in the UFC's middleweight division as the 11-2 Markus Perez takes on the 15-2 fellow Brazilian Wellington Turman in a fairly interesting matchup. This was originally scheduled to be Perez versus Jack Martian, which would have had that Brazil versus foreigner effect. But Turman stepped in after Martian pulled out. He's had about a month to prepare, so plenty of time. This is actually the same scenario under which he debuted, taking a month before moving in to face Carl Roberson in that matchup. Now, Perez is 2-2 in the UFC. He has wins over Boknovic and Hernandez, losses to Eric Anders and Andrew Sanchez, and you see 2 different levels of fighters there, so definitely he's looking to make that next step up with a big victory here. Now, for Turman, he dropped his debut to Roberson by split decision. It was a good competitive fight. He had won 4 in a row coming into it. Physically, Perez 1 inch taller, 1 inch reach advantage. He's the older man by 8 years, which is worth noting. Now, we have 2 Brazilians here, but Perez should be the fan favorite as he is from Sao Paulo, Brazil, so he's the localer of the 2 fighters, so he will be the fan favorite. He will be motivated here to put on a strong performance. And I look at the betting odds. He opened as a big favorite, and a lot of people bet Wellington Turman, and I think that's one of the things they're overlooking there, and it's brought the line down considerably, so we're actually getting a pretty solid deal if you're backing Perez. Now, as I said, Turman, the majority of his offense is predicated around him closing the gap, clinching, and scoring takedowns, and he can work a takedown game. He's very good on the ground. Once he gets on top, he has a lot of success. We've seen him do a lot of good things there on his regional stuff and in the Roberson fight, and he moves to back control fairly fluidly and is very dangerous from that position. If he can't score the initial takedown, he'll spend some time in the clinch, work his opponent over, over, and again, he's not afraid to rotate to the back and try to attack standing in that back position. He looked for an elevated body lock takedown in his last fight, which again had mixed results. Now, at times, he has had issues being too aggressive and losing position. He tends to take risks. And guys who are confident in their submission skills will take risks because they're not afraid to end up in a bad spot because they think they can work out of it. And that could be an issue at this level of the game. We'll see if he makes some adjustments. Robertson winning a split decision quite possibly could have been because he got out of a couple bad spots and got on top. Now, we did see, again, on his, I believe his contenders, or not his contenders fight, but one of his last regional fights, he had some issues with his opponent stuffing takedowns and being able to force him to stay vertical. And as the fight goes on, seems to have, he's not as effective landing takedowns. That being said, he had a dominant third round in his debut. And he was already too far behind in the scorecards for at least two judges, couldn't catch up, but he had a strong third round, so it's kind of iffy back and forth. Now on the feet, when he was striking, he steps into the pocket and throws big punches, kind of stiff. He will exchange, a not ideal scenario for him, but he's certainly not a fish out of water. Now for Perez, he's actually used a grappling heavy approach when he's found success inside the octagon. Both fights ending by submission. Now can he out-grapple Turman and start from the start of the fight to the finish? That's a great possibility. We'll have to wait and see. Now, Turman did struggle at times to hold position against Robertson, which is something if Perez can capitalize on that, he could wind up in the better spot and capitalize more on it than the American did because Perez is a very capable ground fighter. I'm thinking Robertson is as well, but now one area that we did see Markus Perez have issues with was along the cage against Andrew Sanchez. His takedown defense held up fantastic against a very good wrestler, but he couldn't create separation. Sanchez kept him pinned on the cage, and that's something Wellington Turman could very well look to do here in this matchup. Now, Perez overall is the better striker. He needs to focus on functionality over flash, be more effective, land the more high percentage strikes, make those opportunities count. Turman overall is 4-3 decisions. Perez not much better at 3-2. So both guys are the type who want to finish these fights. Robertson was able to defend a lot of takedowns and for large parts of that fights and was able to counter out of bad spots, and I think I would give Perez a slight edge in the grappling between those two. I would think Perez, he's shown he can defend takedowns. He can go offensive against good grapplers. He's shown that as well. I think he should be able to defend Wellington's takedown attempts at least early on and force him to work very hard and keep this fight standing. Look for Turman to be aggressive and pursue the takedowns. Perez is going to be able to defend, eventually work to some better positions, quite possibly, and capitalize on some mistakes. And if Turman gets tired because of the short notice, that he could slow down, become even more vulnerable. I think Perez puts on a show at home, comes up very fired up, puts together a strong performance, and my prediction is Markus Perez to defeat Wellington Turman by decision. Back-to-back all-Brazilian bouts. That's a lot of B's, alliteration at its finest. We are in the UFC's middleweight division still as the 8-2 Antonio Arroyo takes on the 18-4-0 Andre Muniz. Now, Arroyo was originally expected to face Kevin Holland. Holland got moved to a fight that he actually lost, that I nailed bang on. He got submitted in that matchup. Trevin Giles was tied to this matchup. Alessio Di Chirico was tied to this matchup as well, but now Muniz is stepping in on short notice to make his promotional debut. Now, Arroyo has won 5 in a row, including back-to-back Contender Series fights. For Muniz, he has won 4 in a row, including back-to-back Contender Series fights. Both guys fought once in the Brazilian Contender Series and then came to the main stage for the next matchup and put on better performances, and as a result, they're in the big show here. Muniz is coming in with roughly 3 weeks to prepare after the menagerie of fighters were removed from the card. Physically, Arroyo 6'3", so very tall. He's only 1 inch taller here than his opponent, and he's the older fighter by a year. Now, Arroyo, his previous competition's been decent. That's what we like to look at when we're talking about brand new fighters. Only one guy he's fought recently is below 500. Muniz, same thing, decent opposition. All of his opponents, though, have been above 500. Some guys with like double digits and wins. Some guys with that like 8-4, 8-5 record where it's respectable. They're not canned by any stretch of the imagination, but they're probably not going to the big show at any point in time. Now, when you look at Arroyo's record overall, he's finished 8 of his 9 wins, all by finish, split evenly, knockouts and submissions, 7 first-round wins, which is worth noting as well. And contenders bouts he's fought in, they were the first 2 fights in his career to leave the first round. So that's a bit of a concern, which tells us he takes that step up in competition, and as a result, he's going to maybe have to dig a little bit deeper. When does that eventually catch up with him? Now, for Muniz, 4 wins by knockout, 12 wins by submission, 2 decision victories. He has 12 first-round finishes, but he has gone outside of the opening round 7 times, and he's 6-1. So he's got a bit more of experience beyond the first frame and had a lot more success. On the flip side of things, Arroyo, 2 losses by submission, Muniz, 4 losses by knockout. 3 of which come in the opening round, and this is predominantly a striker versus grappler matchup, as those numbers would indicate. Now, Arroyo on the feet moves very well. He varies his attack effectively, changes angles when he punches, which I like. He throws some nice low kicks, and he'll mix in some higher energy, higher risk spinning attacks as well. I really actually liked his heavy inside low kicks. He was really breaking down his opponents with those shots and being very effective. Now, one thing I don't like is the amount of movement he likes to use, that lateral movement around the outside of the cage. It tends to put him to the back wall, and he lets his opponent take the center of the cage, move forward, and that can be a very dicey scenario in a close fight. They appear more aggressive, and they ultimately have more success. In a close fight, that could be the deciding factor. Now, Arroyo did look more aggressive in his second matchup in the Contender Series, but again, we'll see how that plays out here. He will mix in some takedowns, body lock, double leg takedowns. He likes, he'll go for both of those. He'll work from top position fairly effectively. He'll pass guard. He can mount. He's not a guy who's going to sit in the guard and try and smash you. Now, a couple times I did see him get swept, whatever. And, he was ahead. He was a little bit tired in the matchup, so it didn't seem to be that big a deal, and he eventually still won the fight. But again, it's worth noting it's a guy who's a grappling-heavy opponent. I don't like his high-risk spinning attacks because they can be effective, but he also throws them, and they result in takedowns. I've seen guys catch him and put him on the ground, and that is a concern against Muniz here. He did break his last one down with ground and pound before setting up an arm triangle for the finish, which is worth noting, and he slowed down in the third round. So those are all worth looking at. Now for Muniz, his last loss was a big left hand that dropped him in 50 seconds. And again, one of those 4 knockouts, so you have to question his durability and his heart. Are those things that somebody cracks him, is he going to go away? We've seen him taken down. He's willing to go to his back, but he'll attack off his back. He's very, very good on the mat. He's got an aggressive guard, very, very willing to attack an arm, attack a leg, see what he can come up with. He will go for those body lock takedowns. Not great technique, a little bit what I saw in his takedown attempts, but again, he is a monster. If he gets a hold of you, he will just power you down. Again, it's just in the moment, things just looked overly smooth. He did score some takedowns in the last fight on the Contender Series. He also got taken down, and he attacked for an armbar off his back, which helped him get to a better position. Eventually, he got up from that spot, worked directly to his opponent's back, sank in the rear naked choke for the finish. Now, I do like the way he sets his feet and wings big power punches because he's not afraid to be engaged, fire coming back from the other way. But his technique isn't there, and he overextends at times when he's punching, and it's one of those things where if he does that too often and doesn't get in his wheelhouse, is that going to cost him in the cardio department later on? If Muniz can take him down, he could grind a decision or score a submission. Arroyo is the better striker, and he is more durable. He also has a full camp behind him, which are things I like about him. But I'm not a huge fan of how he relies on kicks so heavily and how he gives up space and lets his opponents kind of close the gap on him. I'm not a fan of those high-risk maneuvers that tend to give up position, and I feel like we could see a monstrous guy like Muniz get on top of him and make it count. I think Muniz is going to take him down, work out well from top position, and my prediction is Andre Muniz to defeat Antonio Arroyo by submission. We're in the lightweight division for a fight that is much more prototypical of a Brazilian card, as Charles do Bronx Oliveira, currently ranked 13th with a record of 26 wins, 8 losses, and 1 no contest, defends home soil against the 14th 3-0 American Jared Flash Gordon. Now, Oliveira's rolling coming into this matchup. He's won 5 in a row, longest winning streak in his very long UFC career, all those wins coming by finish. For Gordon, he's coming off a victory over Dan Moret. It ended a 2-fight losing streak and got Gordon back on track. Now, Oliveira comes into this 1-inch taller, 6-inch reach advantage for the Brazilian, and he's actually the younger man by a year, even though he's been around for so long. And it's worth noting, both men fought previously at featherweight, so they're not huge lightweights coming into this. Now, Gordon, he has a ton of experience fighting bouts that relate to Brazil. He went down to Sao Paulo, where he's fighting here, and he beat Hakran Diaz. So this is not unfamiliar territory to him. Then he went back to the United States and lost to Diego Ferreira and Joaquim Silva, both fights by finish. So he's fought a lot of Brazilians. He's had mixed results. Now, Oliveira, he's a very good all-around fighter. He's one of my favorite fighters on the roster. He's a dynamic striker with finishing power, not one-punch knockout power, but he can hit you a lot and really hurt you and get you out of there if you allow that to really pile up. Now, the thing with Oliveira that makes him so darn effective is that he can throw anything he wants. And he can press a fantastic pace simply because he is not afraid to go to his back. He's not afraid to be countered with a takedown. He's not afraid for the fight to change levels. He's all for it. He has those unreal submission skills. 18 wins by submission overall, most in the history of the UFC. He can grab a submission from almost anywhere, standing, top position, bottom. If you are tied up and he has his hands on you, you are in danger. His wrestling's actually quite good as well. He can go offensive with it. Few fighters want to take him down. He has actually won the last 3 fights when an opponent opted to take him down twice or more. So take that that for it's worth noting, especially when Jared Gordon's a guy who might look for takedowns. Now, fighters have had success in the mat with him. He's not been bulletproof. Frankie Edgar had 2 takedowns, 1 a decision. Pettis and Lamas both submitted him and are very capable in a very, very good back and forth bouts. And you go to that Paul Felder fight, who was able to survive the Charles Oliveira submission attempt and then scored a ground and pound finish, a very impressive win for the Irish Dragon. Now, Gordon, in his UFC career, he's landed multiple takedowns in all but one of his UFC bouts, 11 over those 4 fights, in which he is 3-1. So takedowns have been a very important part of Flash Gordon's offense. It's worth noting then, again, as I said, Oliveira is very successful when his opponents land 2 or more takedowns on him. Now, his only losses, or his only, his only really concerning loss was the one, I guess, he got knocked out twice. Let's put it that way. He's had 2 significant losses, but he had that one where he got caught with a submission where it kind of hurt his leg. He didn't tap to it, but it took him out of the fight, in a fight that he was winning against Joaquim Silva, and then he got knocked out. So that's very interesting when you look at this fight. His best weapon overall is a crazy pace. 101 significant strikes against Hakran Diaz, 116 against Silva in that fight that he lost. He only landed 48 versus Dan Moraes, which is kind of a change of pace. And it was one of those fights where we weren't sure who was going to take it on the scorecards. It looked like Gordon should take it, and he did, but it really could have gone either way at times. Now, Gordon is willing to eat strikes as well in order to land them. I don't like that strategy for him. It's not ideal. It can work, but it definitely exposes him to taking a lot of damage. And there is a concern over his durability. He's been stopped 3 times overall, including twice in back-to-back fights in 2018, as we previously alluded to. So that is a concern. Now, he could push a pace that forces Oliveira to fold. We've seen Charles fold up before. When Charles Oliveira fought Nick Lentz on multiple occasions, Lentz is a guy who likes to just get in there and scrap and kind of push you until you break, and Oliveira was able to thrive in that scenario, survive, and finish him on multiple occasions. Oliveira has also shown he can have similar success versus more technical strikers, guys who are going to come out and try and just stand at range with him and just be the better. He did it against Timur, and he had a lot of success in that matchup as well. Now, Gordon, he was actually taken down twice by Moraes, which does not vote well for him. Once by Joaquim Silva. If Charles Oliveira is able to take him down, it's not a good thing. Oliveira, I think, in this matchup holds his own on his feet, possibly even hurts him, probably catches him coming in with something. Watch for those jumping knees, those big. I think he's just a dynamic, lethal striker. But eventually he gets this fight to the floor. I think we're going to see Charles Oliveira lock up a submission, maybe one of those like a rear naked choke or a guillotine, which is incredibly tight. I could see Gordon getting cracked and then panic wrestling and diving headfirst into a guillotine. And my prediction is Charles Oliveira to defeat Flash Gordon by submission. In the co-main event of the evening, we're in the UFC's light heavyweight division as former champion Mauricio Shogun, who are currently ranked 14th with a record of 26 wins and 11 losses, takes on the Bear Jew Paul Craig with a record of 12 wins and 4 defeats. Now, this was originally supposed to be Shogun versus Sam Alvey. Craig stepped in with roughly 3 weeks to prep after Alvey was pulled out of the fight. Shogun's coming off a TKO victory over Tyson Pedro, kind of effective fight, a fighter that has also fought and defeated Paul Craig. He has won 4 of his last 5 with an Anthony Smith TKO loss mixed in the middle. He has wins over Little Nog, Corey Anderson, and Jean Vellante, very impressively. Now, those fights were spread out over like 4 years. So while he had a bit of a streak there, it was just a long, drawn-out one where a lot of times he'd fight people like, oh, wait, Shogun's still in the UFC. Shogun's still on the roster. He's still active. Crazy. Now, Paul Craig's 4-4 in the promotion, coming off a win over Vinicius Moreira. Submission fight. I picked him to win. I thought he'd win by TKO. I don't think I took him by submission, but I took him by TKO. I figured he'd stop him. Big feather in his cap to take out Moreira. I wasn't buying the hype there as much, and Craig definitely exposed him a little bit. Now, Craig is 2 inches taller, same reach. Craig is the younger man by 6 years, and he's been and Shogun's been out of action for 11 months, which is noteworthy considering Craig is taking a pretty quick turnaround. Now, Shogun hasn't fought consistently. We've already addressed this. He fought twice in 2018, which is the most he's fought since all the way back in 2014. Everything has been single fight, and it appears it'll be that case here unless he picks up a big win in incredibly quick fashion and gets called back up for another matchup. I don't think that's going to happen, though. Now, for Craig, he has actually fought 4 times since the last time Shogun fought. 3 times in 2019. This is a big opportunity for him. He's taking a shot at it. You cannot blame the guy. His last fight was very quick. Now, how does Shogun win this fight? How does he traditionally win fights? Well, he's won his last 3 fights in Brazil, so he's certainly supported by the home crowd, and that's huge. He had lost back-to-back matchups in Brazil, so he's certainly not bulletproof fighting at home. Now, he has stopped opponents that are notoriously chinny, guys like Tyson Pedro and Jean Vellante, who can be hurt and finished. And he scored multiple knockdowns against Corey Anderson, another guy who's got a bit of a durability issue, at least at one point in time did. He won a split decision in that matchup, with those knockdowns certainly helping him out, and a decision against Nogueira going the distance. He's also had similar success against guys that gas out. Pedro falls into that category, Vellante falls into that category, Nog falls into that category. Guys he was able to go longer than and simply do more, which is something that he's not necessarily known for his cardio, but he's able to do it when he needs to. So where does Craig fit into this? 3 of his 4 UFC losses have come by first-round knockouts, so that's worth noting. Jimmy Crute submitted him late in the 3rd round, so if Shogun gets a submission game going in a back-and-forth battle, we could see him outlast Craig. I don't know if that's the case here. Now, it's worth noting all of Craig's wins, I believe, are by submission. He has 2 in round 3, 1 in round 2, the rest are in the first round. He seems to wait guys out. In the UFC, that is. He seems to either wait guys out and take damage, survive, be very opportunistic, and just capitalize on a letdown. Shogun is a better striker by a large margin here if his durability isn't gone. Craig can be hit, and Craig can be hit by one of those big shots that Shogun puts him down. And I would think that's where Shogun fits in. That guy's going to be able to blitz him and put shots on his chin, stun him, and get him out of there. Craig could take him down. He scored takedowns in 4 of his last 5 fights. Shogun has some solid takedown defense. He's only given up to really good wrestlers, guys like Chael Sonnen and Corey Anderson have been able to take him down. But, Craig could time him and put him on his ass. That's certainly a possibility. Shogun's gone offensive with his own takedowns, and he's been submitted. Chael Sonnen back in 2013, just the one time. So that you wonder if Craig can get him out of there if he gets in a position. I think if he gets in a really good spot, especially if he stuns him, he absolutely can. But getting to that spot could be difficult. Craig, I think at the same time he could look to wait him out, see if he will slow down, grab that late submission win, but primarily does it against less experienced fighters, guys that are debuting, guys that are have minimal experience overall. Not a guy like Shogun who's going to make those mistakes late in the fight. Shogun's fighting at home versus a short-notice opponent with a questionable chin and below-average striking. That seems like a tailor-made fight for him. If Shogun is off, or if Craig throws everything at him and just overwhelms him and catches him with something, he certainly can pull off the upset here. But my prediction is Shogun to defeat Paul Craig by TKO. And we move now to the main event of the evening. We're in the UFC's light heavyweight division as the 6th-ranked Jan Blachowicz, 23-8-0, fighting out of Poland, takes on the 8th-ranked middleweight and former Strikeforce middleweight champion Ronaldo Jacare Souza with a record of 26 wins, 6 losses, and 1 no contest. Now for Blachowicz, he was on the cusp of a light heavyweight title shot. He had won 4 in a row, and he lost Thiago Santos, who went on to fight for the title. Blachowicz has since rebounded with a knockout victory over Luke Rockhold, another former Strikeforce champion and a former middleweight, former UFC champion. Jacare unable to secure a title shot at middleweight, despite the fact he put together an 8-fight winning streak. Since then, he's gone 4-4 over his last 8 fights, and he's coming off a devastating loss to Jack Hermanson that pretty much precluded him from a title shot at 185 pounds. Now, Jacare is coming up from 185 pounds. He is getting older. He's a fairly thick guy to start with, so that cut might be getting difficult, and he's maybe taking a shot at getting a fight where he doesn't have to hurt his body so much. We'll see if he sticks with it. Blachowicz is only 1 inch taller, but he'll have a sizable 6-inch reach advantage. Souza is the older man by 4 years. Now, how does Jacare fare moving up? Can he take bigger men down? That could be a crucial aspect of this matchup. That being said, he really hasn't shown that much of a significant reliance on takedowns in recent outings. The last time we saw him put up a lot of takedowns was all the way back in 2014 against Gegard Mousasi. Since then, he's scored single takedowns in 5 of his last 8 fights. Overall, he's 3-3 when he lands at least 1 takedown, and he's lost 2 split decisions. In that last little bit of when he lands at least 1 takedown, 2 split decisions, and knocked out by the former champion Robert Whittaker. So he's very capable. It's tough to get him out of there when he's able to get the fight to the ground. Now, can Blachowicz be taken down? That's a great question. 60% takedown defense. He had 1 takedown against Thiago Santos, or gave up 1 takedown against Thiago Santos, gave up 1 against Nikita Krylov. He gave up 3 against Patrick Cummins and 4 against Gustafsson. But those fights were a long time ago, and it seems like maybe he's gotten better since then. He's shown good takedown defense of late, solid offensive wrestling as well. And again, that's where Jack Hermanson had a lot of success taking it to Jacare, shutting him down, and then getting offensive with his grappling. Now, we could surmise that grappling could be a wash, especially if Jacare doesn't look for takedowns or can't get his man off the mat. And that leads us to the situation of striking. Who wins the striking battle? Souza has shown he can put up decent totals. 90 significant strikes, 74, 64 in his last 3 fights. Jan showed 97 against Jimmy Manoa, but 50 against Jared Cannonier, 20 against Thiago Santos. Not huge numbers. Now, neither man is known for their big volume. Jacare would give it as the more natural power striker, but again, it might not translate to 205. He's not a big hitter by a stretch of the imagination, but he just seems to pack more punch, I think, even though Jan seems to do a good job. Jan can stop guys, but it seems to be guys are predisposed to getting knocked out, and Jacare, he's been hurt before, but it's usually speed. Robert Whittaker just so much quicker. Yoel Romero so much quicker. That might not be the case here, but again, if Jan connects, he could put him down. I think the result of the Luke Rockhold fight is really pushing Jan Blachowicz here. He knocked our former middleweight champion, knocked him cold, and it was a big knockout. And it was against a middleweight coming up, and I think people are looking at that and saying, here's another guy coming up, a guy that Rockhold beat way back in the day. He's moving up. Jan could pick up the same procedure, but we know Luke Rockhold's chin is certainly a major concern, major area of issue for him. And I think, though, Jan's getting a big push because of that scenario. Overall, Souza has a superior skill set with regard to his grappling. He also, I think he'll benefit from moving up. Is less demanding on his body. He's also fighting at home, which is a massive advantage. He's very good in Brazil. Jacare, overall, 4-1 when fighting into the octagon when he's at home in Brazil. And his only loss was a split decision loss. For Jan, it's also worth noting, he is 2-2 fighting outside of Europe. Not a good record. He is 1-2 in the USA, 1-0 in Canada. So, again, not a hugely impressive record when he fights outside of the European region. Jan has known to have cardio issues, and fighting in Brazil can make that worse. And he's the type of guy that if he slows down, Jacare could certainly grind him out and take him down. I like the home dog here. We've seen a lot of home dogs, or saw a lot of main event dogs come through in recent outings. Not the last one, but a lot recently. I think Jacare could do some damage on the feet. Jan's pretty durable, but it doesn't mean he can't be stopped. But I think ultimately we're going to see Jacare eventually get this fight to the floor. And my prediction is Jacare Souza to defeat Jan Blachowicz by submission. So those are my 5 main card predictions for UFC Fight Night 164. All of my preliminary picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. I will, again, post them throughout the week, doing my best to get them up as soon as possible. But, again, please be patient. Same with the bet pack. We'll do our best to get it up and running. The bet packs will be for sale for $15, so definitely check it out. We're coming off a huge, fantastic evening, so it's certainly worth looking into. Thank you very much, as always, for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. All the comments, the likes, the subscriptions, everything's fantastic. Again, Twitter, KO_predictions. You can check me out there. Subscribe here on YouTube, and just have a great time. Enjoy the fights. It's our last fights for a couple weeks. And then we get back. We have a couple weeks off, get 2 fights, and we have another even longer stretch off going into January. So, enjoy this. It's the end of a long stretch, and we'll see if we can get things back rolling. For now, guys, take care. I'll talk to you soon. Hi.